Have financial stress, don't have enough money to make ends meet at the end of the month? We talk about how to balance your budget and how to get out of debt. Let's go. All right, guys, Rob Keen, 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝙖.com. We're going to talk about how to balance your budget and get out of debt. This may be one of the most important presentations I ever do, because before you can be an effective investor and have your financial freedom, you must do these two things. Without doing those two things, it doesn't matter right now what you're investing in. So we're going to talk about one, balancing the budget, and two, getting out of debt. And it's a very simple plan, as you can see. You've got 6 steps here. You've got a bucket approach, which we'll talk about, and then a very simple 4 attribute plan to make sure that you keep yourself on track. All right, first, reduce impulse buying. The #1 destruction of the monthly budget is impulse buying. You go to the store, you go to the front of the store, you see that candy bar, you see that packet of Pokemon cards, whatever it is, whatever you're into at the front of the store, and you buy it. And that will rob your budget of $5, $10, $15, $20 every time you go, and that money adds up. That impulse buying has gotten even worse with the ease of using online shopping. How many of us have gone to Amazon and have gone shopping for one thing and added 5 other things to the cart and went from spending $30 to $150? It's the same type of impulse buying, but you're doing it on your computer. It's easier even because there's nobody around you. You think nobody's looking. You do it in the privacy of your home. It's so much easier to spend too much, to exercise impulse buying. That's the first way for you to overspend your budget. And if you overspend your budget, you're not balancing and you can't get out of debt, because we know we all need more money. We don't have enough. So reduce impulse buying, step 1. Step 2, identify critical spending. And what I mean by that is, what do you have to have every day? Your rent and your mortgage, your auto payment, all of your insurances, your gas, your food, your clothing, your electricity, your water, the basic needs. Identify those. Put it onto a spreadsheet. You can download free spreadsheet packages online. You can go online and use Google Docs. You don't have to use a complicated program. Just put it on a spreadsheet and get a total every month. This total should be about 50% or less of your critical spend of your budget every month. If you're spending more than 50% on critical items, either you have misidentified a critical item and it's not critical, and you don't actually have to have it to survive, or you're paying too much for your rent, your car, your insurance, or food, or whatever the case may be. Once you identify your critical spending, if you're over that 50% threshold, reduce it down. Either move something out of critical if you really don't have to have it, or spend less on your rent, your auto, your insurance, your food, your clothing, all of that kind of stuff. You can make adjustments in even your critical spending items by substitution, by reducing the dependence on it, by getting in shape and not needing that diabetes medication, for example. Sometimes you can get rid of critical spending, especially medical, if you get in shape and take care of yourself. Lots of ways to address this, but that's the second step. Third step is set up a savings plan. On that same budget, you want to save a percentage of your budget every year or every month. I aim at the beginning for 10%. Now, a lot of people will say, save more, save more, save more. You can, but in the very beginning, when you're first balancing your budget and getting out of debt, you may not be able to save more than 10%. You may only be able to save 1%. Any amount that you can save in the beginning and start to put in that bank account, which is going to end up in this first bucket, the cash bucket, which you'll use later for other things, including investing, you need to do now. If you don't save today, that's money you cannot spend tomorrow to improve your financial situation. So the savings starts today. Force yourself to save. What you may have to do is then reduce some of your expenditures. Reduce your impulse buying. Identify only the critical items that you need. Number 4, pay down high interest rate debt. You want to start to pay off your debt with the additional savings you have, either with your savings, or you want to reduce your spending so that you have more money to pay down that debt. You're not saving, you're paying off debt. You start always with credit cards. Credit cards are almost always, according to research, according to Experian and other credit authorities, the highest interest rate debt that the average person is going to have. Always start with your credit cards. Now, a lot of people have more than one credit card. The average family of 4 has about $12,000 in credit card debt, according to reports from the credit reporting agencies. $12,000 in high interest rate debt. Okay, we haven't even gotten to the auto and home loans yet, and the other things that you may have debt on, student loans, things like that. Credit cards first. If you have multiple cards, pay off the smallest balance with the highest interest rate first. So if you have a $500 balance at 15% interest, pay that off first. You have a $10,000 balance at 8%, pay that second. That may seem counterintuitive to some people. Why do you want to do that? Because as soon as you can pay off the smallest, highest interest rate debt, you can take the money you were spending on that payment and add it to the next biggest balance. And then after you pay that one, add it to the next biggest balance. And from a mathematical standpoint, and you can put this on paper and check my math, when you pay off the smallest amount, highest interest rate first, and you start using that money that you were paying on that on the next one, and then paying that off and on the next one, mathematically you pay this off faster. It's a more efficient way to do it. If you have a $20,000 credit card debt and you have a $1,000 credit card debt, try to pay that $20,000 off when you're going to pay that more interest on that $1,000 over time, and you're paying the interest on that $20,000. So you want to attack the smallest balance first. Okay. Second, auto loans. Auto loans are the next highest rate debt, even more than homes and even more than student loans typically. Most auto loans are sitting at 8 to 10 to 12%. If you have distressed credit, you may be paying 15 to 16%, depending on the state where you live and the laws. But auto loans are smaller balance, highest interest rate debt than say your mortgage or even your student loans a lot of times. So remember that the key is pay the highest percentage, smallest loan first. 3, home loans, pay that off when you can for student debt. Home loans and student debt may fall into the same overall category. They may have, a student debt may be a little bit higher interest rate. Home loans probably usually a bigger balance. Pick the one that you're more comfortable with that you want to pay off. Some people want to pay off their home first because they want to secure that home in case of tough economic times, and they just want to get the home paid off. You can pay those in whatever order you want. But start with credit cards, then auto, then home and student loans, and any other revolving debt that you may have. Number 5, get a higher paying job. A lot of times you can increase your skill set by taking a simple certification or applying yourself at work and applying for a job that pays more money. Sometimes you can move employers to an employer that pays more on the open market for the same job you're already doing, as long as it doesn't require you to spend any extra time or effort. There are ways to get higher paying jobs. Look around at them. There are tons of job sites that will give you information on how to find better paying jobs. And heck, you may even find one that's closer to your home or allows you to work from home. That would be great. Or you could get a side gig. I hate to say it, but you could drive an Uber. Now, you're not going to make a lot of money that way. You're going to put wear and tear in your car, but in the short term, you can make some money. Or perhaps you have a skill. Maybe you're an artist and you want to sell some art. Maybe you're great at organization. You're a project manager. Okay, you can go to these websites where you can provide your skills and get people to hire you, like Upwork or things like that. Find a side gig. If you have more time on your hands and it's easier for you to spend time earning some extra bucks than it is some of these other steps right away, do that. Use that money to pay off your credit card, to set up a savings plan or whatever the case may be. Last step here, restructure investments. This is one that almost nobody talks about. Why would you restructure your investments? So let's say you have a 401k with a company, and those 401k investments are earning 6, 7, 8% gain per year. They move up and they move down, but it's 4 to 5 to 6%. Stock market's doing well. But you have a lot of money now in them, and you don't have a lot of cash flow, and you have a lot of debt. What you may want to consider doing is, 1, taking a loan out of that 401k or pension if the rules allow you to do it. Many of them will allow you to take a hardship loan or to take a loan for liquidity purposes because you need cash. Take a loan. A lot of times the interest that you pay back on that 401k or that pension goes to you. You're paying interest to yourself and actually increases your balance over time. In other words, you're increasing your long-term savings rate by taking the loan, because when you pay it back, you're paying that balance plus interest, okay? So see if you can take a loan and restructure your 401k, if that's the easiest way for you to get immediate financial relief. You tried all these other things, but you have so much debt and not enough spending that you can restructure your investments. The other thing that you can do is put your money into investments that work better for you in the short term. More liquid investments that you can invest in that provide a higher return over a short period of time. Or sometimes restructuring investments is simply lowering your contribution rate to some of them because you may be putting more into the long term, but you're having more short-term financial stress. So what you want to do, you first consult your financial advisor about this step, but look at ways in which you can use your existing investments to give you relief over your budget and help you get out of debt. Sometimes the best financial thing you can do is not to invest a lot of money in a high-risk investment like the stock market. Sometimes it's just getting out of debt, okay? This step right here, paying off the debt, can give you more immediate peace of mind and reduce your liability that you owe somebody, that it just gives you an immediate better quality of life. You feel better about yourself, it gives you financial freedom to make other choices, and you can go back and invest later. And a lot of times you'll go back and invest in a wider array of products that could be more beneficial to you than just putting money in your company-sponsored plan or whatever the case may be. All right, now I want to talk about the bucket approach. The bucket approach is very popular for people trying to figure out how to structure their finances. The first thing you should always do is have liquid cash. Why do you want liquid cash? Well, let's say you get laid off from work. You're going to need money to pay the bills. If you got all your money tied up here, or you're spending more than you make, and you don't have any investments, you're in trouble when you lose your job. What happens if you get furloughed, okay? What happens if we have a recession? What happens if you have your car break down and you need $1,000? What happens if one of your kids has to go to the hospital and you have to pay your deductible? What happens if you have hail on your roof at home and you have a $5,000 deductible on your plan? Well, you have to pay that, okay? Medical deductibles, other insurance deductibles. Cash can help you pay for those. It can help you pay for unforeseen expenses. And later on, when you balance your budget and get out of debt, you can do fun things like actually going on vacation or buying that new TV that you always wanted. That's later on down the road. The second thing is to look at your liquid investments. Those can be things like gold and silver. Those could be things like CDs at your bank. Things that are relatively short-term that you can get into and out of. You want to identify what your liquid investments are, and you want to identify how much money you have in them. Because once you run out of cash, you're going to start looking at your liquid investments next. Now, your long-term investment, like your 401k, could have some liquidity in terms of what you can borrow against it, okay? Or even if you go to the more extreme measure of redeeming it when you leave your employer and paying the penalty. In some cases, that's actually better. Again, consult your financial advisor before you do that, but that could become a liquid investment. So liquid investments could be what you would consider long-term: your house, your 401k, your pension, those type of longer-term investments that all of a sudden, due to a market change or a need, because of your financial situation, it could become very liquid. Maybe you sell your house, you want to move to a smaller house and reduce financial pressure. Maybe a spouse lost their job, one of the kids moved out, you don't need as many bedrooms, you sell a house or you rent a smaller apartment, if you will. So a lot of your investments can become very liquid due to need. So don't just think about CDs and money markets and bullion that you have and other collectibles, artwork and things like that, or your car, your vehicle if it's paid off. Other things can become liquid, so identify all of those. Third, what are your long-term investments? Your 401ks, your house, if you consider that an investment. Anything that you have a longer-term commitment to, identify that. And lastly, identify your insurances, your life insurance, your auto insurance, things that protect you, your medical insurance in case of financial harm. Those insurance a lot of time will reduce the amount of financial harm you come to in life when you have an event. Now, you want to put under insurance how much you pay a month for all these, and then what it could potentially save you to judge how much of each that you need, so you can adjust this bucket up and down. Because not only do you want to put things in buckets, you can move each bucket up and down to suit your current circumstances. You can increase your cash, you can decrease or increase your liquid investments, you can move something from a liquid investment to when you get better shape financially to a long-term investment and keep that over the longer term, especially real estate if it's doing really well. And then you want to make sure that you're buying insurance proportionate to your need. If you have dependent children, you may want to have life and AD&D insurance, disability, and in case you get disabled and you can't work. Those types of insurance protect your family during hard times if something were to happen to you. But as your kids get older and you get to retirement age, you may have less need for insurance for because you've reduced your debt and because you have more cash in liquid investments, and your spouse may be getting older and they don't need as much to survive. Again, consult your financial advisor on this, but a lot of times you can adjust that insurance bucket up or down, and that will affect your budget, and that will affect how much money you have to spend. All right, now, what are the recommendations? We have 4 here at the bottom. 1, keep it simple, silly, the KISS principle. Always keep all of this as simple as humanly possible. The more complexity you build into here, the less likely you're to follow it, and that plan will fail. Be simple. Identify what you have to have and what you don't. Identify your buckets, move the buckets up and down to meet your current financial need, and allow those to change over time as needed, and keep it as simple as possible. 2, be consistent with your plan. Once you set out a plan, be consistent to that plan until you identify a life change or a situation change, such as a better job, or you paid your way out of debt, or you no longer need that extra car and you can sell it. Once you have a situation change, you can change the plan. But while you're in the same situation, be consistent to that plan. Do not change that plan no matter what happens unless you have no choice. If something happens, a death in the family, loss of job, and you have to change it. But as much as you can, be consistent. If you're not consistent, the plan will not work. Plans only work when you're consistent. 3, ignore friendly advice from your family. Your family will give you stock tips. They'll tell you to go do this, they'll go do that, because that's what they would want to do. And they're looking for validation to get you to do it. We are creatures of we're social creatures. We flow in herds. People want you to do what they do to validate themselves, and that's natural, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we are as humans. But a lot of times you have to step out and say, I'm an individual, and I'm exercising my individual personal financial plan that I just made, and I'm gonna ignore friendly advice. It's friendly, it's meant well, but I have to ignore it to fix my current situation. The last is choose your financial advisor carefully. I always tell the story of my wife transferring a 401k account from a previous employer to a bank. She moved employers. She wanted to move her qualified account to a bank and have them invest for her. She told them exactly what she wanted, and they invested in something else, and we found out on the first financial statements. And we went to the bank and said, you put money somewhere where we told you not to. And they said, yes, because we think that's a better investment for you. They chose the investment that did not fit her needs. They didn't pay attention to her needs and what she wanted. Okay, that basically was a dishonest transaction. They were not exercising their fiduciary responsibility towards that customer, identifying their risk tolerance and the investments they wanted to get in. So just because they have financial advisor in their name, even if they work for a big bank or brokerage, be very careful. Sometimes those financial advisors will want to push you in things they think are better for you. Sometimes it's underhanded, sometimes they mean well. It doesn't matter. Remember the ignore friendly advice. Sometimes that friendly advice comes from a broker who will earn more money in certain investments, and they want to put more risk, but it may not fit your investment profile. So choose your financial advisor very carefully. So this has been the plan on how to balance your budget and get out of debt. One of the most important things you can do. All of this needs to be done before you make investments. You always want to pay first attention to cash, then to your liquid investments, then long-term, and then insurance in that order. And that is how you manage your budget and get out of debt. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. We appreciate it. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that notification button so you get those notifications when new content comes out. If you like what we're doing here, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Those members of Patreon will get extra special content delivered to them as well.